So who are we? Global Tech Advocates is a volunteer organization which is focused on helping startups and the tech sector generally. We started about 10 years ago in London. We now have chapters across the globe. Membership is free and you're very welcome to join. GTA HealthTech is effectively the HealthTech working group of Global Tech Advocates. We're particularly focused on helping health tech startups, and especially with cross-border issues given our international network. So I think that's enough on us. Let's get on with the webinar. Tim, over to you.
Hi, everybody. Thanks for that, Bob. My name is Tim. I'm joining you today from Shanghai. I've been here for 10 years, and over the last decade, we've seen a lot of changes all across China, and also within healthcare and life sciences as well. Now, China could be regarded as one of the fastest countries in the world to get a new medical product approved, because the approval system has been revamped and streamlined to such an extent, and we may hear Hamish refer to that later in one of our panels. But regardless of these developments, China is still a complex market and not for the faint of heart. Several common challenges have been consistently reported over the years, and some of these cases have improved, but some also may be perceived issues rather than actual barriers. Having said that, foreign companies usually will want to educate themselves on how to adequately protect their IP, how to legally access and comply with China data laws, which is a big deal, and also how to commercialize and identify a paying customer, which may not be a copy and paste from other regions. So with that, I'm delighted to introduce our first speaker, Mr. Frank Zhou.
So today I'm going to use about 10 minutes to give you a brief introduction of China market access for tech and devices companies. For any foreign companies to enter into China, you need to consider the regulatory requirements. So here is a recap of the general requirements. So China adopts the market authorization system for actually both for pharmaceuticals and for medical devices. But here I mainly introduce for devices and medtech companies. So market authorization basically means that you can have product registration separate from manufacturing. Previously, that's not possible in China. It has to be combined. So after the separation of MNH and manufacturing, actually there are a lot of medtech, biotech companies developing rapidly in China. So basically, the medtech companies, they focus on development, but they contract out manufacturing to third-party CMOs. Medical software, if they serve medical purposes and if they are standalone, they are also regarded as medical devices and subject to product registration or filing requirements in China. And as to the market access models, I think China is no different. I think what's the models that are customary internationally could also apply in China. But here are a few models. One is basically you register your product as a foreign company, right? And then you use a local distributor to distribute your products in China. I think that's a very customary approach. I think the key issue, I mean, there are various issues under this model, but one of the issues that you need to consider is how to early terminate the agreement, because the partner may not serve your purpose going forward, and you want an opportunity to exit. So in the distribution sales agreement, I think you need to have early termination clauses so that you can be able to divorce if the cooperation is not that successful. That's a licensing model. So the difference from the first model is that the foreign company is not the market authorization holder for its products in China. Other countries, the Chinese local partners will be the MH and be responsible for, I think in particular, if the product is just a prototype, it has not been commercialized anywhere, then the local partners could be responsible for R&D and also for regulatory registration and also for commercialization of the product.
So there are many tech parks and many accelerators in China. Shanghai has a large one called Zhangjiang Tech Park. And our next speaker, Zhou Tang, is head of the Roche Accelerator here in Zhangjiang, Shanghai. And he's going to help share what kind of innovative technology he's seeing and what demand there may be in the near future. So over to Mr. Tang. Thanks.
And thanks, Bob and Tim, for having me. I'm Zhou Song, the head of Accelerator, and I would love to give an introduction about the pharmaceutical business and how Roche is seeing the trend and also the next wave innovation that can actually transform our drug discovery and development, particularly in through data, AI, and machine learning. And so around the world, Roche has formed alliances with many leading health tech companies. I could name a few here. As you can see, these 8 companies, they are ex-China companies. Some of these are very big companies like NVIDIA, where we leverage their GPU resources. There are also smaller scale biotech companies or even startup companies where we try to work with them in order to get a certain questions addressed to help us identify novel targets or novel modalities. I want to also mention 3 Chinese companies that we have worked with so far, and all of these 3 companies are AI-based, and they are the portfolio of Roche Accelerator.
Alex, if it's okay, we'll ask you directly. I know you're very active all over the world in AI drug discovery and anti-aging topics, but you've also been connected and working in China for many years. Some might say that it's harder actually to commercialize and protect software IP and that China prefers hardware. Would you agree with that? And what opportunities have you seen for foreign digital health companies like in silico? Do you think other companies could follow in your footsteps?
So sure. Well, first of all, on the IP protection, we so far have not encountered any problems in terms of IP. So one of the main reasons why we came here is because of the infrastructure. So the infrastructure that China put in place for the synthesis, chemical synthesis, validation, animal experiments, and everything that leads to the clinical development. So all the preclinical work can be done much faster, much more efficiently, not necessarily cheaper, but the probability of success is usually higher. So we have not seen this kind of level of quality and integration anywhere else in the world. You have hundreds of thousands of synthetic chemists in just one place. Actually, Roche presented just before me, and they know, the Zhangjiang area, the area in Shanghai and Pudong, where most of the biotechnology is centralized, is extremely rich with talent that is, absent in many other regions around the world. And you can basically, on 1 square kilometer, you can hire, 5 companies that will do synthesis and test and very rapidly validate your hypotheses that are coming from AI in animal models. So the level of infrastructure is just extraordinary.
Very much, Alex. So we just talked about software there. Moving on to Stephen now to talk a little bit about devices. Some people have said that dealing with medical devices versus software can be a little easier generally to commercialize in China. You already have a China team based in Shanghai, I think, and you've helped several big pharma to design bespoke drug delivery devices. How are you able to communicate your expertise as a foreign company versus local companies which are growing in capability all the time?
Well, I guess we're focused on all sorts of medical devices, so drug delivery devices, as you said, but also surgical equipment, robotics, home use products, all sorts of things. So it's all those devices are pretty complicated, complex devices. They have a lot of regulations, and so there's not many companies in China, even right up to now, that actually have the capability of navigating that whole process. Most of the capability for doing that tends to be in-house within the large companies, and the consultancies tend to be.
Thanks very much, Stephen. Very interesting insights there. Nathan, your perspective is possibly a little broader in that you're not technology specific, but possibly earlier stage technology. You've been out to Beijing in the last few months, and you're coming again. What sort of trends are you seeing, and what do you think could fit into the China market as it is?
Yeah, so the reason why we started really kind of proactively looking at the China and Asian market is we've been going 5 years. We have companies now, Series B, Series C, where they've entered probably the US, have some traction in Europe, and now looking at Asia and China. So having a physical team in Beijing will support that effort.
So if it's okay, Hamish, I'm going to go directly to you when we're looking at approvals and regulations, and we're thinking about how to get reliable information on regulations in China. How politicized is that process or versus how merit-based is it? And also, are local clinical trials likely to be required, or will foreign trial results be respected? That's probably a handful, but yeah, I know you can handle it.
Yeah, thank you, Timothy, and thank you for having me to speak here with Frank and Alicia as well. Yeah, I mean, taking the first point you mentioned, there are a few in there about reliable information. There is regulations published frequently, and we're talking medical device specifically here on the NMPA, the regulatory authority website. That is, of course, primarily in Chinese, although they have an English version of the website, which has much more limited information. There is also quite substantial English translation of regular newsletters or notifications from various other independent bodies. So I think access to regulatory information is not something I'd say is so limited. It is there, perhaps. From an international company trying to find it in English language, it can be more difficult, but the information is available. Yeah, I think that's the first point to say. Sometimes it can be difficult because there are informations issued by different bodies, and circulating that into one can be difficult because there can be provincial or different regulatory bodies which do change over time as well.